Okay, we have injury news. I need to update the rankings on the site. So let's go ahead and let's dive into everything. We actually had a recent report about CeeDee Lamb that Lamb is questionable for Monday. Obviously, it's a concern when anybody's listed as questionable for Monday because you have to make that decision on if you play a Sunday option instead. Now, a report follows up, and McCarthy says Lamb's back injury is not a high concern. Now, I don't know how to read that, right? Does that mean it's not a high concern for him potentially missing Monday's game? Is it not a high concern for what you have here with the expectations for the long term for Dallas? Because obviously, Dallas is playing for absolutely nothing at this point. I mean, you go ahead and pull this up, and you can see that the Dallas Cowboys are currently sitting at the very bottom of the NFC East alongside the Giants at 3-6. This is a team that has no shot to make the playoffs. If they somehow, some way made the playoffs without Dak, it's not happening. Two, if they did, they'd get bounced immediately. So this is a team not playing for anything. You have a long-term investment into Lamb. Do you really rush him back if there is any concern at all with the back injury for Monday? I still probably expect Lamb's going to be good to go, but I mean, going through and looking at our updated Week 11 rankings, I think maybe you push Lamb down just a tiny bit because obviously it's a garbage offense in the first place. I don't know if we can move Lamb any further down than 16. Did Underdog take off his pick or no? No, he's still there at higher, lower 59.5 receiving yards on Underdog. If we were to move him below Jaden Reed, Reed does project a very much lower. Lamb's at higher, lower 59.5 receiving yards. Reed's at higher, lower 51.5. So I'd probably keep Lamb here, wide receiver 16. Just going to be a small thing that you need to continue to monitor. Now, going over and looking at the next update that we have with the, dear God, did I close out of that window? I did not. Here, Tyler Boyd, don't care. To do Jake Ferguson, not listed on the injury report. But again, I don't really care about any of these options in Dallas. Like, we can go through and you can look at the updated projections that you have for this Dallas Cowboys offense. And they are projected to be the third worst offense in the NFL this week, only ahead of the Titans and the Jags. So, like, if you could, I would personally avoid Ferguson. We have Ferguson ranked at about, like, tight end 14 this week, right behind Taysom, Jonnu, Hunter Henry. I think he's a lot less appealing than he was previously. Tyquan Thornton, don't care. Hayden Hurst, don't care. George Kittle is questionable, but the man, I mean, this is his MO. He's going to miss practice during the week. He's going to be good to go on Sunday. Still, Kittle is an absolute must-start option here. Going over to what we have with our next relevance piece. Isaiah Likely not listed on the injury report for Week 11. So obviously Mark Andrews was at a season-high snap rate, season-high route participation rate this past week with no Isaiah Likely. And Andrews has been, I mean, absolutely killing it with the touchdowns as of late. But now that Likely comes back in, am I excited about Likely? Hell no. But do you move Andrews down just a tiny bit? Probably. Like, I have Andrews here at about tight end 7. I think potentially I could move him behind Tucker Kraft to look at maybe the expectations that you have right now. With the Underdog projections, you have Mark Andrews, higher, lower, 35.5 receiving yards, higher, lower, 7.85 points. Whereas if you're looking at Tucker Kraft's higher, lower, 33.5 receiving yards, higher, lower, 7.15. So I think you can kind of go back and forth between Kraft and Andrews here. Really, it is going to be up to you. I don't love the matchup against Pitt, though. Our next update will be with Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren, questionable. Najee is cleared, good to go. So here, if Warren were to miss, it probably makes Najee a must-start running back because you have the receiving usage again. But if Warren were to play, then Najee probably not super exciting here in a spot against Baltimore where you actually do have the Ravens favored in this game. Like, going through and looking at the updated spread in this game, you have Baltimore favored by 3 points. So it's not a spot where we can just easily project to see a ton of usage when it comes to Andrews in the rushing, Najee in the rushing attack in Pittsburgh in comparison to most games where the Steelers are going to be favored. DK Metcalf, not listed on the injury report for Week 11, so for sure going to go through, jam DK Metcalf in. We have Metcalf right now in our rankings about wide receiver 14, must-start option. Obviously, the Terry McLaurin ranking did not age well. RIP 2-point Terry. But yeah, looking at the projection that you have with Metcalf as well this week, I mean, it's a tougher spot going up against San Fran, but they are probably just going to have to throw the ball a ton. You do have Metcalf, higher, lower, 57.5 receiving yards. I actually wouldn't mind Metcalf with the 1.41x to score a touchdown. I actually think that's a little bit interesting here just because it's such a high multiplier. I actually may save that to submit a pick 'em for myself later. LaPorta listed as out. Friggin' sucks. I have LaPorta not only in a bunch of underdog best ball teams, but I have LaPorta in the Flock League. With LaPorta being out, nobody else is super interesting here in Detroit. It's not like you all of a sudden you just run and grab the backup tight ends. The only thing that I really did in my own team is I went to the waiver wire. The best option that I had was Pat Frymuth to throw in over LaPorta. So that was the pivot that I made. But obviously, I hope that you have a better tight end off waivers. If you can bet Taysom Hill, that would be a much better option. Nico Collins said he's 100% good to go for Monday. So 100% play Nico Collins, zero hesitation. If you look at how Collins projects at the moment, going up against Dallas, obviously you shouldn't have a ton of passing volume in Houston. He's higher, lower, 71.5 receiving yards, which, I mean, is actually, I know a lot of people hate to see this, but it's actually very similar to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill actually projects to have more yards than Nico this week. You have a very high implied team total here with Miami. Tyreek's higher, lower is 74.5 total yards on Underdog. If you're looking at sportsbooks, they are currently projecting out the Miami Dolphins to only be behind the Eagles, Niners, and Lions in total points scored this week. So I actually think that Tyreek Hill is in line for a pretty big bounce back. I think you see that with the projections as well. Regardless, Tyreek's a must-start option. I don't have to convince you that Nico's a must-start option. Now, of course, if you want to say, Mason, you're an idiot, Tyreek Hill's been horrendous, as if I don't know that. You could go ahead and you could take the lower than Tyreek Hill, 74.5 total yards on Underdog. Again, I wouldn't do it because I think you're in line for a pretty big Miami bounce back, but I know a lot of y'all are Tyreek haters. And you can find that link to Underdog Fantasy in the description and comment section. Promo code FLOCK. You'll get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Plus, at the same time, you'll actually get a free Aaron Rodgers pick for the game on Sunday, more than less than half a total yard, and a free team review in the live stream that we're doing every single day. Just click the link that says free Aaron Rodgers pick, use code FLOCK. And if you wanted that free team review from using promo code FLOCK on Underdog, make sure you set up an account on flockfantasy.com with the same email address as your Underdog Fantasy account. But let's move this over to our next update here. This one is going to be Marshawn Lloyd is out for week 11, but honestly, for the waiver wire next week, I may need to pick up Marshawn Lloyd as, I don't want to say, actually, that's a lie. Here's what we're going to do instead. We're not picking up Marshawn Lloyd. But I think it does make it where if you were to get that injury to Josh Jacobs, they probably split the backfield between Marshawn Lloyd and Emmanuel Wilson. So Emmanuel Wilson at this point is a lot less appealing where you don't really have that handcuff appeal. So I probably move Emmanuel Wilson down here. I'd rather have Dameon Pierce because if it makes somewhere to go down, I'm pretty confident Pierce is the guy. Whereas with Emmanuel Wilson, it could be Marshawn Lloyd at this point. So if you were holding off any hope for Emmanuel Wilson as a handcuff, you go ahead and drop him. Let's see. The Giants haven't decided if they're benching Daniel Jones or not yet. Juju, good to go for week 11. I'll go ahead and technically I'll throw Juju Smith-Schuster into my week 11 rankings. I will just say 99% of y'all should be benching Juju. Very, very little interest. If I was comparing Juju to some other wide receivers this week, I would probably have them ahead of Damari Douglas, ahead of Tolbert because the offense. Higgins is going to be good to go, so ahead of Yoshi Vosh. But I would rather play Dontavian Wicks. I would rather even play Mike Williams over Juju. I know Juju in the one game that you had in KC this year was great. You had the 130 receiving yards. But again, it was a massive outlier performance where the last time you saw that was 2018. Now, Tyler Higbee, a couple weeks away from returning, doesn't matter. Isaiah Pacheco ruled out for week 11. Expectations, obviously, you're not getting Pacheco back for week 12 until week 12, week 13. T. Higgins, not listed on any injury report. If Higgins is not even on the injury report, I definitely think that you can go through and you can play T. Higgins. I currently have him ranked at about wide receiver 20, right ahead of someone like Zay Flowers. Obviously, we'll talk about Amari Cooper in 1 second, but I think Higgins is going to be a must-start option for most of y'all. It is going to be a little bit of a tougher spot going up against a good Chargers defense, however. And Davante Adams is on track to play week 11. My hesitation that you have with Adams is this is a receiver that missed practice on Wednesday, missed practice on Thursday, and missed practice on Friday. So with Adams, I'm a little bit hesitant. I still think that he is a must-start option. Even though London has a really bad matchup, I'd still probably start London over Adams. But Adams is averaging about 10 targets a game, getting a ton of usage out of the slot as well. And again, going over to what you have with sportsbook projections at the moment, you actually have the Jets only projected behind the Bills, Rams, Texans, Chargers, Ravens, Dolphins, Eagles, Niners, Lions in total points scored this week. You are getting sportsbooks saying that we're going to have a little bit of a bounce back here from this Jets offense. Michael Pittman Jr. going to be good to go for week 11. Am I super excited to play Pitman? No, I am not. Do we need to rank this dude? Yes. But you have Anthony Richardson under center. Josh Downs is the wide receiver 1. I'd rather play Pitman over Williams, Lockett, Judy, Quentin Johnston, Christian Watson, Deontay. These are all right in the same range. I'd actually probably move Johnston over Johnson. But the thing with Pitman is you're in a tough matchup, super low volume passing offense. You're the number 2 fiddle. You're coming off an injury. Like, Pittman's probably worth the spot in your roster, but it'd be very difficult to get him in your starting lineup. LaPorta already missing, like we said. Let me just confirm that we have Sam LaPorta at the very bottom of the rankings. Let me make sure that we're okay. We put him in a range where we didn't know if he was going to play or not. Let's move him down to the bottom. We need to move Kincaid to the very bottom as well. T. Higgins good to go, as we already discussed. Amari Cooper is still questionable. This will be something that you really need to monitor. I would rank Amari as a must-start option if Amari does play. Because the thing is, you're going to be looking at an offense that has no Keon Coleman. You're going to be looking at an offense that has no Dalton Kincaid. Obviously, it is a great offense. It is actually a tougher matchup, though, where typically you're used to seeing both the Chiefs and the Bills near the very top of the NFL in terms of their projections with their implied team totals weekly. However, if you go through and look at where they're at this week, you actually have the Bills sitting with pretty much the same implied team total as the Jets. It's just Chiefs have a great defense, and the Bills have a great defense as well. So what is insane is if you're looking at the implied team total with the Chiefs, it's behind the Steelers, the Vikings, the Browns. Like, the Chiefs project out to be a below average offense this week, which is, I think, the first time that we have seen this all week. And I apologize. Adams practiced in full on Friday. Adams missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday. I apologize. Adams practiced in full on Friday. But let's move this over to our next update. Dalton Kincaid ruled out week 11. We already discussed. Tank Bigsby practiced, but Bigsby's not playing. I forgot to update this with y'all. But if you are looking at Tank Bigsby being ruled out, that doesn't really impact your decision to play Tank Bigsby or not. You're benching the dude regardless. But where you need to begin to think about things is with Travis Etienne. Because now that you have no Bigsby, this is the first time that you are going to see Etienne project out to see pretty much every single touch in his offense. The issue is it's a horrendous offense. It's a horrendous matchup. Where I don't know if we can go through and if you can make an argument realistically to play Etienne. Like, I don't know if I can move Etienne ahead of Dowdle. I don't know if I can move Etienne ahead of Chubb. Like, going back over and looking at what you have with projections at the moment, the Jags project to be the worst offense in the NFL with an implied team total of 16.5 points. They are 2 touchdown dogs, 13.5 points spread in this game against the Lions. There's no way in hell that they're going to be able to run the ball against the Lions. Etienne at no point this year has been viable. And so Etienne's going to get volume. I don't know if you can start the dude, though. The only saving grace may be that he gets receiving usage. But even going through and looking at the underdog projections that you have, Travis Etienne is currently sitting here with a mark higher lower 68.5 total yards. He's sitting with higher lower 10.25 fantasy points. Whereas the guys that we have directly ahead of him, like Rico Dowdle, who's also a 3-down running back in a garbage offense, is higher lower 82.5 total yards. Higher lower 10.65 fantasy points, so higher than Etienne. The other guy we have right ahead of him with Nick Chubb is higher lower 73.5 total yards, but more likely to get the touchdown because he's in a better offense. Higher lower 11.25 points. So despite Bigsby not being good to go, based off how bad this Jags offense should be, I still am not super interested with Travis Etienne. Let me see if we have any other injury updates. Please let me know in the live chat if y'all have any questions about any player that maybe we didn't discuss in this live stream. Yeah, Najee Harris is good to go. I mean, we learned about that and we talked about that a while ago. If you're looking at projections with Najee this week, you're a higher lower 66.5 total yards, a little more likely to get the touchdown than those other options we talked about previously, though. A higher lower 13.05 fantasy points. The hope that you have, at least for myself, since I am personally starting Najee Harris this week, I am starting Najee here at my second flex spot. The guys I'm benching him for, I'm benching Ricky Pearsall, Jalen Waddle, obviously James Conner on bye, but just give you a range of like what I'm looking to play Najee. And then I don't see any other injury questions in the live chat. So let me go through and see if there's anything else that maybe we didn't discuss. No, I think that's everything. Sadly, no, LaPorta friggin' sucks, at least for myself. I know a lot of y'all are going to say, oh, LaPorta wasn't scoring points anyway. I get it, but it is what it is. I need the moral support of LaPorta. Here's what we need. This is what we need this week. I need to move to 7-4. If I move to 7-4, that put me with a good shot in my league to potentially get a bye. So we're rooting for it. We limited Terry to 2 points this past week, which obviously saved us. But let me go ahead, submit these rankings on the site to make sure that everybody's getting the most updated ranks. And also, of course, if y'all wanted to check out any of these pick'ems that we are talking about on Underdog, you can find that link in the description, comment section, live chat. It'll say free Aaron Rodgers pick, and then it'll show it there. Because if you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog, you're going to get that free Aaron Rodgers pick, more than less than half total yard for the Sunday game. You're going to get a free team review in the live stream that we're doing every single night as well. And on top of that, you're going to be getting a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Just if you wanted that free team review, make sure you're setting up an account on flockfantasy.com with the same email address as your account on Underdog Fantasy. That way we know who to credit with that free team review voucher. But thank you again. Really do appreciate you. Really hope I was able to help you out in some way with this stream. And I really hope I get to answer your question in the live stream later tonight.